I'm Connor Old, and welcome back to another episode of Old's Oscar Countdown. And here we are at the end of the countdown with less than a week until the Academy Awards, the 2022 Oscars, where all of our sort of analysis and predictions will be coming to a head, and I will be predicting coming this Thursday, so Thursday, Friday, my final predictions in all 23 categories, and then of course after the Sunday on that Monday morning I will be giving sort of my initial reactions and thoughts to the award show, the surprises and whatnot, as well as launching a new series. So even though the Oscars are over, this channel does not die. We sort of transitioned more into film analysis. We've done my favorite movies of the decade before. We've done different series about what makes directors great. Now we're going to do another series I'm sort of titling so far Movie Star Magic, and sort of breaking down movie stars and actors and their career and sort of trying to project their career arc and trajectory, and I've been preparing for that, and that one's been a lot of fun, so I hope you stay tuned for that. But without further ado, this episode I'm going to be talking about my PGA reactions, what just happened now as of this recording, and then of course I also want to break down 3 of my biggest questions going into Oscar night. Now that we have pretty much all of the award ceremonies out of the way, what are the categories that upset? Because every year there's going to be at least 3 to 4 upsets that we don't see coming. Let's try to predict those and be aware of those as possible potential spoilers. And PGA reactions, wow, oh wow, Coda could win Best Picture. I mean, this is a movie that when we initially thought it won SAG Ensemble, it sort of went, oh, okay, this sort of makes sense. But now that it wins PGA, you have to sort of recognize it as a serious Best Picture winner, which is crazy to think because, early on, I remember in October, I was saying, hey guys, don't forget about Coda. Coda's a very well-liked movie. If enough people see it, it will get nominated, and then enough people saw it, it got nominated, and Troy Kotsur got in, and sort of surprised in a couple places. Now, with Coda winning PGA, that's incredibly telling. You know why? It's because the PGA votes on their Best Picture the same way that the Oscars do, using a preferential ballot, which indicates to us that this is the most accurate predictor of the potential Best Picture winner that we have. Now, Power of the Dog won a Critics' Choice, Power of the Dog won at BAFTA, so let's not sort of ignore it. Power of the Dog is most likely winning Best Director. That being said, Coda is a real threat. Now, there's a lot of alarm bells that are sort of going off in my head. They're going to go, well, Connor, Coda wasn't even nominated for Best Editing. Connor, Coda has 3 nominations. It would be if it wins Best Picture, it would be the movie to win Best Picture with the least amount of nominations since 1932's The Grand Hotel. Okay, so there's a lot of alarm bells that are ringing off that goes like, there's huge Oscar statistics that say Coda will not win. That being said, it won Adapted Screenplay at BAFTA. So, there's a strong support clearly there. It wins PGA, which is the same voting system the Oscars use, the preferential ballot, which indicates to me that the Power of the Dog maybe doesn't have a lot of support in the same way Coda has a sort of general support. It wins at SAG, it wins at PGA. Who's to say it's not going to win? Or do we trust PGA and SAG more than BAFTA? I don't know. I may kind of do, because those are, big award shows. But then there's the weird thing where you go, Coda wasn't even nominated for Best Film at BAFTA. Has that ever happened before, where a movie's not nominated for Best Film and then wins Best Picture? I mean, Coda really sort of came out of nowhere, and if Apple wins before Netflix, that will be kind of nuts and insane in Netflix's ultimate sort of triumph to try to get a Best Picture winner to lose to a movie like to Apple. It will be super fascinating. Also, just to see, something like Jane Campion. Will she only win for Best Director? There's so many big questions going into Oscar night. We definitely have a race for Best Picture. That is true. And Coda with a PGA winner, it may be the front runner right now. It's tough to tell. I still think maybe Power of the Dog, because listen, 12 nominations, 4 acting nominations, above the line, below the line, editing, wins at BAFTA, director winner. Like, it has all the support, but we've seen the preferential ballot before sort of upset in the Green Book year, or I even say the Parasite year. It really is a big factor, and PGA is a huge, super indicative award too. Nomadland won PGA. Green Book won PGA when that happened. The Shape of Water won PGA when we were unsure of that year, So there are a lot of things to indicate that it will be Coda's year, and it could be a scenario where it goes 3 for 3, and that would be fascinating and super surprising. but the PGA has also had another couple things that sort of cemented it. Best Animated Film went to Encanto, which sort of solidifies the fact that I do think that's going to win for Best Animated Film. Best Documentary went to Summer of Soul, which once again solidifies that movie's chances of winning the Best Documentary Award. And, you know, I've been predicting those movies for a long time, so I'm glad to see that sort of validation. Even something like Coda, where I've been predicting an adapted screenplay and, you know, potential Best Picture. Spoiler, listen, there's a lot of red flags and things that are sort of going off in my head, but the Oscars are anything but unpredictable, and Coda can seriously win for Best Picture, so let's not count it out. So it's fascinating that we really have, in my opinion, a two-horse race, and this could be a real interesting award show at Oscar night. So now transitioning into the three big questions going into Oscar night. What are those going to be? My number one, I think, is who's going to win Best Adapted Screenplay. This is a category where I think you can make strong cases for pretty much any of the nominees except for Dune. I don't think Dune's going to win, although you could make sort of a semi-strong case for that. But I look at the four movies and I go, any one of them could win because there's not a clear frontrunner. We have a movie like Drive My Car, which is very dialogue-focused. Of course, it's also in Japanese, which means that the Academy members, or most of them, are going to be reading subtitles on the screen, which places an extra emphasis on the dialogue, which is oftentimes an indicator. If you have really good dialogue, people indicate that as having a good script, as good screenplay, and then therefore they want to reward it. The movie is also, let's not forget, a very well-liked movie. This got in for Best Director, Best Picture, Writing. If they want to sort of reward this movie someplace, I think the most likely chance it will get is an adapted screenplay. The problem, it really hasn't won anything aside from some critics awards, so that's sort of a challenge going into Oscar night, because it didn't win Critics' Choice, or, you know, it wasn't nominated at all the sort of correct places. Then we also have The Lost Daughter, which I think is still a possible contender. Its problem is that it did not win anything. You know, it lost at Critics' Choice, which I thought would maybe be the one sort of holdout that maybe it could get something there. But that being said, it did win the USC Scripters Award, which shows that there's support for writing. This is the first Elena Ferrante movie that's been adapted onto the screen. Oftentimes when we have these writer-directors, like in this case with Maggie Gyllenhaal, they like to reward a screenplay for the sort of initial debut. Think of Jordan Peele for Get Out. They're like, hey, it was a great movie, but you know what, let's just give you the screenplay award because you're a writer-director. That's one easy way to sort of reward you. Maggie Gyllenhaal just won the First Time Director Award at the PGA, so there's a lot of appreciation, I think, for this movie. And let's not forget that the Oscars really like this movie because there was a surprise Jessie Buckley nomination in Best Supporting Actress that not a lot of people saw coming. So let's not forget that The Lost Daughter is still a well-beloved movie. And even at the beginning of Venice, it was like, what's the movie premiered at Venice and then won the screenplay award because that sort of screenplay is so lauded. So we have wins at USC, we have sort of a screenplay focused movie, but because it hasn't won anywhere, I'm probably not going to predict it. But still a potential strong case and a potential spoiler, I think. Then maybe in second place, I would still go with The Power of the Dog. Listen, it's a Best Picture favorite right now, and that's not something sort of to sneeze at. I've mentioned it before that you can say, oh, it's going to be like Nomadland, and they're not going to reward Jane Campion twice for director and screenplay, therefore they're going to go somewhere else. That could be true, but it would also be a scenario where, you know, like Inarritu, where he wins for Birdman, directing and writing, and they don't really care just because they really like the movie. Plus, you know, let's not forget that because The Power of the Dog, you know, won a Critics' Choice, is the Best Picture frontrunner, I think still that there's a strong chance that it also wins something. It'd be weird if it just wins director and then picture. You would think it would pick up a screenplay or cinematography or something, editing even, potentially. But ultimately, that the overall sign of support for The Power of the Dog, you know, the question is it waning? It loses out at supporting actor, Cody Smith-McPhee. You know, it loses sort of its screenplay momentum here. Where does the support really lie? It'll be tough to tell, but just from the fact that this is the Best Picture favorite, it's hard almost to bet against it. But nevertheless, I think still in the first place I would have is Coda. You know, when we're looking at the sort of two awards, Coda was nominated in a lot of the key places in terms of, you know, Critics' Choice and BAFTA. But to me, the difference being ultimately that Coda won BAFTA and Power of the Dog won Critics' Choice. And Critics' Choice is a bunch of critics, and BAFTA has a lot of Academy members within it. So do we have actual Academy members voting on it? Of course, the Academy has also become more international. So BAFTA, I think, actually has an extra level of importance. We know that Coda is sort of this Parasite-like-esque rising momentum of a movie that could still potentially, you know, spoil in Best Picture. And if it were to sort of have a Best Picture path, it would make a lot of sense to do the traditional path of screenplay win, actor win, and then picture win in the same line of a Parasite or a Green Book or a Spotlight. That screenplay picture win is critical, and we know pretty much now that I think Troy Kutzer is going to win for Best Supporting Actor, so why not a screenplay? Plus, it has the factor that it has the dialogue on the screen with the subtitles, so there's an extra level of importance there. I think there's an appreciation for the screenplay, just sort of its overall structure and emotional beats that it hits, in terms of its humor, in terms of its drama. So I think that Coda is a little bit more of the traditional screenplay winner, but it's still tough to sort of beat out a movie like The Power of the Dog, which could win Best Picture, but Coda is still a potential Best Picture winner as well. Then my second big question is, who is winning Best Editing? Unlike the Best Adapted Screenplay category, where you could make strong cases for 4 of the movies, I think in Best Editing, you can make weak cases for any of the movies. Like, there's not really one movie that you can say, oh, this is why it's going to win, because you can make a case for it, but then I can give you a stat or a statistic or a fact that sort of undermines it. And if you don't just want to look at the race in general, when we're trying to predict categories, we're trying to look at indicators that will help us predict what the Oscars are going to do. So we look at, of course, the actual guild. So in this case, Ace Eddie, all often the categories have their own guild, that they have their own award shows, which can be indicative. We look at the BAFTAs, we look at Critics' Choice. So then if you look at the editing category, what's so interesting is that, okay, well, let's look at BAFTA. They're very indicative, right? What did it go to? It went to No Time to Die, which isn't even nominated, so we can't really use that. Then you look at Critics' Choice. Who do they give Best Editing to? West Side Story. Well, that's not even nominated either, so we can't look at that. So it's like, okay, well, let's look at the Editing Guild, the Ace Eddie Awards. They have 2 categories, Best Dramatic and Best Comedy. Tick, Tick, Boom won in Best Comedy, and King Richard won in Best Dramatic. And those are both Oscar nominees, so you go, hey, it's going to be between King Richard and Tick, Tick, Boom, right? Well, not exactly. King Richard won that award, but only went up against 2 Oscar nominees, in the same way Tick, Tick, Boom went up against only 2 other Oscar nominees. So it's not like you can say dramatic is a little bit more competitive than comedy, or either or. Okay, so that's something to note. So it's not necessarily one that you can weight more than the other. And then you look at the movies and you go, well, neither of the movies were nominated for Best Sound. And that's a really interesting statistic, because for the past 15 years, no movie has won Best Editing without a sound nomination. So I'm going to say that again. No movie has won Best Editing without a sound nomination in 15 years. It's very rare that we get an Oscar statistic like that to be so consistently true year and year and year. So there's a connection between this Best Sound and Best Editing categories, and King Richard and Tick, Tick, Boom don't have those nominations. So there would be a major upset if either of them were to win in terms of this historical precedent. And then also King Richard and Tick, Tick, Boom, neither were nominated at BAFTA or Critics' Choice. These are 2 award shows that we sort of use as an indicative fact. Not only did they not win, they weren't even nominated. So there's sort of iffiness going on there. So then it's like, okay, we'll look at the other nominees. Licorice Pizza doesn't have a sound nomination and didn't win anything, so we really have to sort of slash that out. Then we look at the other 2 nominees, The Power of the Dog and Dune. Both of them have sound nominations, so that's a good thing in terms of the 15-year historical precedent of the Best Editing winner having a Best Sound nomination. Okay. Then you go, well, where did it get nominated? Power of the Dog got nominated at Ace and Critics' Choice. Dune got nominated at Ace, Critics' Choice, and BAFTA. So in terms of nominations, Dune is the sort of frontrunner in that sense. So I go, hey, Dune, it's the frontrunner to win Best Sound. It has the most nominations. Therefore, it's most likely to win Best Editing, because if we think the Best Sound winner and the Best Editing winner are correlated, there's a strong case for that there. But then you also go, well, hey, Dune, it was nominated everywhere, but it didn't win anywhere. It's the big loser. It's lost everywhere. So you wonder, like, do people even like the editing, or is it just something that has gone in everywhere? That's an interesting question as well. Versus The Power of the Dog, which could win Best Picture, so why not give it Best Editing? But it also has lost everywhere, so what are the reasons for that? Ultimately, I still want to go with Dune because of that connection with sound. If there is a big sort of surprise upset, I put my money on Tick, Tick, Boom, just because we've only had the 2nd year now with sound being only one category. If you remember, and you've been a long-time viewer, sound used to be sound editing and sound mixing. So you had a lot of more chance to get nominated. So, if this movie was, if this sound category still, both of them existed, I think Tick, Tick, Boom would be a movie that probably would get a Best Sound Mixing nomination. And in that case, it wouldn't break the award. And it has the most flashy editing. It does make sense in that sense. But I still think Dune is the odds-on winner because it is most likely to win Best Sound, and that correlation between Best Editing and Best Sound is strong. It also has the most nominations everywhere. So in terms of the historical facts and statistics and what's most likely to win, I still think it's going to be Dune, but right now, we really don't know. Then the third question that we want to ask ourselves before we go into Oscar night is, what are the categories that are most primed for an upset? Every year we see about 3 or 4 legitimately big surprises where it's like, whoa, Manx cinematography, I don't think anyone had that. Or, hey, Anthony Hopkins wins. Even Frances McDormand last year was a bit of a surprise as well. So we have to sort of question, I think, beforehand, well, what are those categories most primed for an upset? I think you could say Best Original Screenplay is one. I think there's a narrative that PTA, Licorice Pizza, he's definitely going to win. It's his time. Well, talk to Sylvester Stallone about that, where, we sort of were blinded by things and saying, oh no, they were going to give it toward it was time for Stallone. And then they were like, nope, we're going to give it to Rylance. Or even last year, Chadwick, rest in peace, this is going to be his time. And then people are like, actually, I secretly like Anthony Hopkins and The Father a little bit better. So it's like, you have to answer these kind of questions too. Where do we see those surprises? I think original screenplay, just because we have the fact that, hey, it's Paul Thomas Anderson, he's never won before, it's the easiest way to sort of give him an award. But I look at a movie like Belfast, and that's a movie that has a lot of support, clearly. And do they really want to give it nothing? You go home empty-handed? Or do they want to give it at least something? Give it a screenplay. Give Kenneth Branagh sort of something for his achievement. This is a movie that was, once considered a Best Picture frontrunner. So why not give it something there? I think Belfast still has a shot in original screenplay. Best Original Song, I think, is definitely a category for an upset. Just because we think, hey, No Time to Die, it's Billie Eilish, it's Bond movies win, last two won, Bond songs won, right? This one's going to win, right? Well, not necessarily. I mean, this is a song that was released a full year before the movie actually came out, more than that even. And then you have another sort of contender in Lin-Manuel Miranda and his song for Encanto. And Encanto is the biggest Disney musical, specifically the music side, since The Lion King, maybe. Are they really not going to reward that movie with some sort of best song something? In hindsight, you may go, of course Encanto won, because it was this phenomenon. I don't think we should necessarily, we don't always give the amount of scrutiny that's required in these below the line categories, but those are the categories that you win in. So I really wanted you to consider maybe Best Original Song we could see an upset like we did last year. And then another category that I think is still sort of prime for an upset is Best Costume Design. I think, Cruella has been winning in a lot of the places, which is true, and let's not forget about that, but the Oscars still like to go their own way sometimes, and Dune, I think, is a really beloved movie. We think it's the best winner for best sound, even best editing, best production design, best visual effects, and I think that for a lot of Oscar voters, when they're going down their lists, they're just going to reward, even the technical categories, movies that they like. In this case, Best Picture nominee, Dune. In the same way they did with Black Panther, and the same way they did with Mad Max Fury Road. And we could see a scenario where a lot of people just didn't like Cruella or didn't see Cruella, and they're going to lazily vote Dune for everything, which is pretty much what happened in an award ceremony like Critics' Choice or BAFTA, with the one exception, of course, being costume design for Cruella. But if there's a little bit more support for Dune in the Academy, and like I said, the costume design, particularly from the Academy, has been skewing a little bit more sci-fi fantasy, whether it be Fantastic Beasts in 2016, or Mad Max Fury Road in 2015, or Black Panther in 2018. So we've seen these sort of reoccurrences of these big blockbuster type technical achievement movies that get a lot of technical awards also pick up in costume design. Oftentimes we also see the costume design winner and the production design winner link up. So if we think Dune is a sort of clear frontrunner to win for best production design, why isn't the clear frontrunner to win for costume design? Interesting thing to think about, and don't be surprised if Oscar night we see Dune win in costume design. But that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you comment below. Let me know your thoughts on some of the biggest questions going into Oscar night. Which categories are the most out of left field surprise? What are your sort of bold takes, your hot takes, your bold predictions coming into Oscar night? And stay tuned this Thursday, Friday for my final Oscar predictions. I'd love for you to give that video a lot of support, and this video too, for getting it up and ready and instant reactions, so you guys can consume that content right away and hear my thoughts post PGA. But that's about it. Until next time, stay tuned.